Welcome to the first lesson of this chapter. Before we talk about the advanced concept of Swift enum, let's go over and review the three types of enums in Swift. Welcome to Learn Swift About. Today, let's talk about the first lesson of advanced enum. Today, it's actually the basics. So in this lesson, I'm not going to talk about the advanced stuff. Here, I want us to be on the same page. So before you move on to the next lesson, you know what to expect. So first of all, there are three types of enums. If you didn't know about this before, one is just simple basic enumerations, and then the second one is enum with raw values, and then the last one is associative value. If you didn't know, if you haven't heard about this before, well, do not move on to the next lesson. You will have a hard time understanding what the heck those are. And let's move on. Let's take a look at one by one. So let's begin with the first basic enumerations. So let's begin with the first one. So here we go. By the way, enum is nothing more than providing a blueprint, right? Just like classes, structs, right? Yeah, but it's kind of the making an object in enum is a little different from making an object in classes and structs. We'll take a look at it. So here we go. We have an enum compass, contains north, south, east, and west. Okay, and we can have a planet. You can also have a single line making cases. So case Venus, Earth, Mars. So how do you make an object? Well, this is how you make an object. This is how you make an object within when you're using enum. This Earth is actually the object of enum blueprint. So there's no like this, right? That's what enum allows you to do. That allows you to initialize this object with that matter with this case. Okay, so here we go. We can check what kind of object, what kind of case that object contains using the switch statement, right? By the way, if you don't know about this part, this might not be the even right lesson for you. Please go back to the YouTube tutorial I posted for the beginners and go there. But by now, you should probably know this. We could have a case planet. You could have Earth could have a planet Earth case, but we could just simply ignore the type because you know that Earth, the type is planet itself. Okay, so you has to have a planet type. You're working with Swift again. Chapter 1, lesson 1. Swift is a type-safe language. So Swift is actually can infer a lot of types out there. So you know what the basic enumerations are. So now let's talk about the raw value. So what are the raw value? So raw value is, here we go, let's copy this. So we have a food here, but the only difference is we have this string thing right on the right side. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it means that you have some sort of ability to call the string value. So when you call string value from pizza, food.pizza, raw value, right? When you have raw value, when you have this string here, that means you have the ability to call this raw value property. And then what's happening is it's gonna have this pizza on the right side. Okay, so it's gonna get the raw value, transform the pizza case into a string value. Okay, that's what it's doing. So in Swift, Swift supports a couple raw value types, such as, for example, copy this PR 1 second. So in Swift, there are support following types for value enum. So you can have int, you can have float, right, just like double. You can have string, and also you can have bool. So so now we've taken a look at string value, but we can also have something like this. Raw value, and then I'm just gonna erase it for now. So we have a raw value of days in int. We have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So when you have a days dot Monday dot raw value, it's not gonna give you the month, unlike the above one. We're gonna get the first. We're gonna get the number 1 on the right side. Come on. Oh, number 0. Okay, it started from 0. Okay, it's like just like that. So start with 0. Okay, so hopefully, I think Thursday should have what? Thursday should have, I believe 3, right? Okay, Thursday should have 3. Okay, and the Sunday you can guess. But you can also do something funny things like this. You can actually cut it down like this way. So what's happening is Monday is going to be 0, Tuesday is going to be 1, Wednesday 2, Thursday 3, and Friday is going to be 10, and the Saturday is going to be 11 and 12. Okay, so that's, you can also define that way if you wanted to. Okay, yeah, that's it. And also you can initialize an object using the raw value. So for example, you can have something like this: let possible day, and use the enum days, and then enter the raw value. Okay, so it's gonna go through the raw value of this days here, and you know that Friday contains 10 raw value of 10, so it's gonna return a possible day. Is gonna be it's gonna be an object that contains Friday. So for example, you're gonna have possible day dot what do I call it? Let's just print possible day. Let's print it out and let's see what happens. Probably gonna have Friday. It's gonna be optional. Okay, what is this? Optional Friday, right there, Friday. So you create this object with, but here's the thing, it's gonna be an optional type. Why that so? Well, you see there's an optional type. Well, if you think about it, if you enter raw value of 1000, do you think there's a value that contains the raw value of thousands? No. So that means it's gonna return nil. So in order to have nil, you know that, chapter 1, lesson 2, we're gonna have nil value because it may not exist. Just like dictionary, it always returns an optional type. Okay? So you can also unwrap it or use it this way, whatever you want to. Here we go. So I'm just gonna go over the review, so you should know this. So we can have something like this kind of thing right there. So create an object with raw value, right? So right now in this case, raw value will be there should be no raw value, I believe. Do you think there's a raw value? Well, let's see. Someday raw value. Let's call this raw value of 11. Let's call it 11. So you know that Saturday should be 11, right? Here we go. So and then you use switch statement. You're unwrapping the optional here, unwrapping it if let, and here we go. We have a raw value 11. Should be Sunday, Saturday for now. So if it's weekend, if it's case.set or case.Sunday weekend, default anything else besides Sunday, Saturday, it's gonna be weekdays, and else no such day exists. So right now, take a look at on the bottom here, weekends, because raw value 11 returns an object with cased Saturday. Okay, am I making sense, guys? All good? Okay, here we go. And the last part, associate value, and it has nothing to do with associate type, associate value. So okay, so we cover raw value, we cover just normal enum type. In this lesson, I'm not going to talk about the application. We're going to talk about the application in the next lesson and also in the next course. Enums are my favorite. Actually, I use enums a lot when I code, but I'll show you guys as much as I can. So let's now talk about the associate value. So I'm going to use an example from the Swift documentation. I think they have a great one. So enum is a simple enum, but here we go. We have a case here. There's no raw value on the right side with equal sign. There's no one. There's nothing like that. But it does contain like UPC. By the way, there are two types, major types in barcode. There's a UPC and there's QR code. Okay. Let's see how UPC looks like. UPC code. Okay, just normal barcode. Okay, so let's see, we have 4 numbers with UPC. I think you guys know QR code, right? Yeah, int. Okay, here we go. So how to make an object with barcode? Well, this is how you make an object. Let's call it QR code, and then barcode. All right, choose a case. But here's the thing: you're gonna enter something, and ask you to enter something. Call it XYZ. Okay, let's call it XYZ, and then let's call it UPC code barcode. Initialize it, UPC, and then it's like you're making an object, right? It's pretty similar to it. And then we have let's call it 4, 2, 555, whatever you want to enter. So it's very analogous to creating an object using structs and classes. They're very similar. You're literally making an object by entering a value. And but here's the magic happening. So the benefit of using so there's a value associated with this enum object. Okay, so there's raw value. Yeah, there's along with case. But here, in fact, you can have a very custom value associated with each case. Okay, that's why I call it associated value, like associated custom value. So how is this important or useful? Well, it can be useful for validation. So you might make an object, your shopping mall, and then you need to make an app for a shopping cart. And then you never know whether it's QR code and UPC code based on the user. The user may have QR code, you may have a UPC code. So you gotta know, hey, is it the UPC code? But I know it's barcode. All right, it fits the blueprint of barcode, but is it QR code or UPC code? All right. And if it's QR code, tell me what the value is. If it's UPC code, tell me what the value is. That's kind of scenario we're looking at right now. Here we go. Let's try this. So we have if case let, okay, barcode.QR code value. Well, here we go. So we are literally barcode dot. So if you take a look at QR code here, what's happening is this is what you're entering here. You're unwrapping it because, in fact, here's the thing. Here's a barcode.QR code value. That means the value refers to the what's inside of this QR code. So this is your, let's call it custom, let's call it QR code. QR code. I mean, I think that's a better way to go. Kind of confuses you a lot. So we have a QR code, my QR code. What are you complaining about? Okay, there's no complaint. So here we go. We have barcode. Okay, let's assuming that it is create a constant barcode.QR code and it has a value, and you have and my QR code. So now here the value refers to what's inside of this my QR code. In this case, it's XYZ. Okay, it's like if flat. Okay, am I making sense? This is how you kind of validate whether it is a QR code or if it's UPC code. Okay, if it was UPC code, it's just not gonna work. If it's UPC code, it's not gonna work. Okay, it runs, it doesn't break because it's still part of the barcode enum, but it doesn't do anything. But in this case, let's say if that matches, let's say if it's QR code, right? Then it can get the value of, you can get the associated value and call it as value, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter. Call it value, number, and here we go. This is a QR code, and then you have value. Okay, and then you can also have one for barcode for UPC code, which can get a little more complex. We have a if case let barcode, right? If is let's comparing the is a UPC code the QRC code. All right, check it. All right, if it's true, then let's call the first parameter as number, system, manufacturer, product, check, and then you have the ability to use this this parameter, also called the value attained from UPC code, and then use it within here. But you know, this is not the best way to go about. This is not that organic, right? We want to make sure we're gonna use switch statement to make sure, you know, this is not the best way to go about. I just want to show you how you kind of validate, how you can kind of get the value out of this barcode case. That's what I wanted to do. But in real life situation, actually, it's gonna be like a little more different. So it's gonna be like this. We're gonna use switch statement, which is a very, very nice one. Let's call it code here, and in this case, let's call it my QR. What was it called? Here we go. My QR code. Okay, here we go. And we're gonna compare it. So code could be my QR code. It could be also UPC code. It doesn't really matter in this case. But the thing is, you're just gonna enter switch code here. Okay. So you want to see if is it the QR code. I know it's under the umbrella of barcode, but you don't know whether it is a QR code or whether it is UPC code. Okay. So this is how you do it. Let's see how you do it. So here we go. Yeah, it's kind of long. I'm just copy paste this. Yeah, but I'm gonna explain to you. So here we go. We have a code here, and then you're gonna check first one. Is it the UPC code? Is it the QR code? All right. This is not the best way to go about it. When you're working with Enum switch is your best friend. Okay, you don't want to do this kind of nonsense. Use switch statement. You have case. It allows you to organize into one basket, and you see what are the cases available, and what are the if it's not available, use default. That's amazing. By the way, you don't need to use default in this case. Here's why: because if you take a look at barcode, there are 2 cases, right, available. Okay, and then if you cover the entire cases situation, there's no default. There's no other way you can have that barcode. There's no other code type available. That's why you don't need to have default. Okay, when you cover the entire cases situations. So let's call it the first element as a number system. Let that manufacturer, let product, let check. Here we go, UPC number system. You can get it right there. Okay, it's pretty much identical stuff we're doing above. We're just calling it, let's call it let, making a constant within this case. And let's call it, if there's a value, then just use that name. It's like a function, right? Just have a parameter name and then use that parameter throughout the entire function block. Just identical stuff, but the fact that you just have to put let out there to make it as constant. And you check whether it's a QRC code or whether UPC code. If it's UPC code, it's going to print this part. If it's a QR code, it's going to print this part. How's that? Pretty good. But it's not that amazing. Here's why: because you're repeating yourself. You see the let. Well, in Swift, actually you can just have one single let allows you to do that. Well, this is how you go about. So instead of calling let for every single parameter, you're gonna put let in front of this right here, and it assumes that everything is literally let right there. Okay, case let. So when you're working with the associate type, remember, you're going to use case let, making a let, if let. That let is used to get the value, the parameters, the associated value from that enum into a constant that you can work around within the block of code, okay? Just like a function. So here we go. So it's useful, right? Literally, if I were to design a barcode app, this is how I design an app like this. Of course, I'm not going to use this way. I'm going to use this way. All right, I'm going to have 2 choices. One is UPC, one is QR code, and then this is actually a real life situation. You can use it for anything, for some sort of you want to have a scanning. You want to have if you have a choice, you need to have some sort of analyzed data that was given by the user. You can use enum associate type as long as it fits the umbrella. So for example, there's a barcode, and if you have a cases available and each case has a value associated, use enum. Associate type is amazing. But in this lesson, we just covered the very basics of enum. We haven't even covered, this is lesson 1. We have 7 lessons in the entire chapter. You will appreciate what I'm gonna offer to you guys. You'll learn a lot more. You'll never ever. This is my favorite chapter, actually. I think I love this chapter as much as I love functional programming chapter. You'll definitely appreciate what I'm going to offer to you guys. Keep practicing. If you're not familiar with enums, you can ask me questions. I'm always available, Slack or phone call. No matter, I'll be right for you guys. So see you guys. Keep learning. See you in the next lesson. Boom. You and I both reviewed the 3 types of enum in the Swift programming language. If you are not comfortable with any of the syntax, please make sure to watch this video multiple times, check out the resource page, and come back after, please. I promise you, the upcoming lessons will get much more complex. In the next lesson, you will learn how to use enums to write less, but produce more by learning about practical application in iOS development with the UI kit. Let's begin.